Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar presentation today. My name is Brian Piquel. I'm the CEO and founder of KPInterface, and I'm joined by Ariel Rodriguez, who is the founder of InRiva AI. And today we're bringing to you another AI webinar presentation, and today's title is The AI Dilemma for SMBs, brought to you by both companies. And we are going to discuss really the big questions right now that are facing the small, mid-sized business marketplace when it comes to AI. So first, I'd like to introduce Ariel to everybody. Ariel is the co-founder of InRiva AI. He and his firm have been a partner of KPIs for the last few months as we get to know each other. And what we're trying to do is bring greater value to our client base by bringing great partners like Ariel and his team to our clients. Ariel leads InRiva's AI solutions delivery. He's had a many decade career in data science and AI and ML at scale. Former head of real-time analytics, JP Morgan Chase, where he worked with developing real-time data products and AI and ML solutions, improving customer service and operational efficiencies, focusing on real-time targeting, digital analytics, ML back office, and AI-guided customer service. His past analytics leadership positions at TD Bank, Scuba Analytics, Jornaya, and Mobiquity. He's got several certifications, including Inform Certified Analytics Professional and High Trust Certified De-Identification Professional. Currently, Ariel and his team are focused, though, on bringing AI solutions to life for various businesses, both small and mid-sized, throughout the region and beyond.
Thank you, Brian. Great being here. Thank you for putting this together. I was on, and this is a topic I'm very passionate about. So this is going to be fun.
Should be. So what we're going to cover today. So the agenda includes the following. Reviewing the current AI landscape and options for small and mid-sized businesses. Reviewing private versus public AI, which is best for me and my business and why. The implementation and deployment and what should we expect at that juncture. And then also considering to prepare for the future. It's hard for all of us to completely prepare for the future, but we want to give you an idea of at least where things should be shaping up over the next year or so, and have everybody at least have that discussion. And then finally, we're going to wrap up with any questions and answers you might have. So if you have any questions throughout, if you want to just throw them into the question and answer section or into the chat, we'll gather them up, and when we get towards the end, we will certainly review your questions. So Ariel, why don't you give for us kind of the high-level big picture of where you think things are right now for the small and mid-sized businesses when it comes to AI?
Absolutely. We're living extraordinary times in the pace of innovation, specifically with AI. We've seen over the last couple of years, products come out that are transforming industries, that are changing the way people work, people learn, how people go about managing their business. But for small and mid-sized businesses in particular, there's a challenge, which we're calling here the AI dilemma. And it's that on one hand, they recognize the need to adopt AI and use its capabilities to remain competitive. Most likely their competitors are using it. Their customers expect them to put it to work for their benefit. Their employees are using it probably in some ad hoc way because there's the craze of using AI for most things. And the efficiency gains of using it are becoming compelling. They're becoming undeniable. On the other hand, most accessible solutions, which we're calling them public AI here in this discussion, call it the ChatGPTs, Claude, Gemini, all the readily available solutions, they come with significant trade-offs, in particular for the SMBs. And those trade-offs reveal themselves as they start implementing AI within their enterprises, within their businesses. And the most significant one is that about data control. And it's very important for that to be considered upfront. And this is the dilemma. This is what SMBs need to think about. Either adopt and make that trade-off with data control, or sit back and then be subject to the competitive landscape.
Right. Understood. Well, so what options do businesses actually have today? Can you break down the landscape for us?
Yeah. So three options in general. Option one is status quo. So sitting back, trying to figure it out before moving. AI came into the market. Many of them basically prohibited their employees from using AI before they thought about how they could control the data that would move into this external systems, because they're external systems to businesses. And so that's one option, but it's obviously it's just a transitory one. It's not the one that it's not the target state for anyone. The second option will be public AI. What we're calling public AI is the readily available services, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and their business-friendly versions, which provide you with state-of-the-art capabilities, ready to go. They're paid for use, so as you use them more, obviously they will be more costly to your business. But they're ready to adopt, and they're fantastic, right? They have extraordinary capabilities. And the third option here, option two, right? Option one was really option zero, not doing anything. Option two, deploy private AI, is taking full control of your implementation, making sure that the data stays within your business and that you're leveraging the learning aspect of AI to your benefit. Those are, in general, the three options, right? Each one has different considerations. There's cost considerations. Obviously, public AI, you just get started. There's no upfront cost, generally speaking, and then you pay for use. Private AI requires some investment upfront so that you can set up a system that stays within your private environments. But then you get the benefits of that fixed cost averaged out over a longer time and higher use. But then it comes with some operational complexity. At least initially, you need a team that is capable and knowledgeable of how to implement them. But then the ongoing cost is to your benefit.
Well, that's really helpful. So how should business executives go about ascertaining which options are right for them?
So we could think about it in maybe in four dimensions, right? You have first data sensitivity. Is your data, and we'll come back to this slide here, but is your data proprietary, like sensitive, proprietary? Is it important to your business? Is it your secret sauce? That's very important. Also, budget. Are you willing to make an upfront investment to put together the infrastructure necessary to enable private AI and break free from an external solution? Third would be regulatory requirements. If you are in an industry that is regulated, say healthcare, HIPAA applies. In finance, SOX, Sarbanes-Oxley, or PCI, the requirements to keep customer data private. If they apply, then you may need to consider then private AI as a preferred solution or as your target state. And then lastly, of course, the adoption aspect. how quickly do you need to get there to gain value and to solve the problems that you think are the most important and valuable to your business.
Okay.
So, yep. Just wanted to touch base on these slides, right? Like these tell you a bit more about each of the options that we mentioned. Public AI. The key consideration here is that it exposes the data to the vendor that you're using, right? No matter what you do, when you send that request, when you send that query, it is sending data, and it could be in the form of know-how because you're asking how to do something that is very specific to your business, or maybe some pieces of data that are critical to remain internal to the business. You're sending that over, and you're obviously entrusting that to that vendor. Cost, in the public AI scenario, it's per use. So typically is priced on a per query or per token level. A token is, an encoding basically of the text that goes into the model to answer back your questions. So, as you start using it more, then obviously it becomes costlier. You may be using premium features that may bring that cost even further up. And then compliance, it's a shared responsibility model, right? Vendors would make assertions that their platforms conform to, privacy concerns and needs. There's some great products out there that actually ensure that the data remains private, that it's isolated, and you may be able to meet some of these higher compliance thresholds that HIPAA requires or SOX requires.
Right.
But it's still a shared responsibility. And then adoption, you get the benefit of the state of the art, right? State of the art functionality, thinking models, and doing research that can generate like research papers or industry research in an instant. That's exceptional.
So this is public AI we're seeing on the screen now. So data exposure, obviously, you have high cost, variable compliance. It's shared responsibility, limited control though from your end, and then adoption. You do have some readily available option capabilities as well. What if we go to the next slide? We talk about private AI services.
Yes. So then private AI, the great benefit is that, of course, it doesn't expose your data at all. And when we say private AI, is a system that stays within your account, right? Your premises, your IT infrastructure. So when people are using it, sending requests or questions or queries, there's no transfer of data. There are no data going out into vendors, right? Stays within. Cost, of course, requires an initial upfront investment to get systems going, to get the infrastructure right. Nowadays, that's becoming much easier because vendors are actually making it easier by providing developers and IT professionals with components, readily available components that are almost plug and play, even for systems as advanced as agentic systems, right? We have AI agents collaborating behind the scenes or automating a process. And then on the compliance side, private AI provides full control because it stays within your infrastructure. So you have total control over, the compliance requirements. So it's HIPAA, you can't share patient data. If it's in finance, you can't share customer data, or even in marketing, right? GDPR requirements, etc. You have them under control. You do what you need to do without necessarily relying on a vendor's assumption. And then on adoption, it's what I mentioned, that it does require some technical skill at the beginning, so guidance, and maybe some technical teams to provide you with the maintenance of the system to get it to learn from your data. But that's becoming easier even for the technical teams that do that.
Let's take a look now of comparing public versus private AI and really what the total costs are. Can you elaborate on that a little bit, Ariel?
Yes. And as I mentioned, Private AI comes in at a disadvantage at first because it requires that initial investment to put together some infrastructure for you to own it. Um, and once it is in place, then you get the benefit of the cost per use, right? In the sense that you now have a fixed cost that is averaged out over a longer term, and you can use it to achieve a certain level of usage that, when compared to the public alternative, would still be below the threshold, because public AI or public cloud AI would be on a per token basis or a per query basis, and very quickly it would become expensive. To be fair, right, in this chart that we have here, we see the private AI coming out, higher at first and then leveling off. Sure, maybe after the initial year or second year, there may be another bump for additional infrastructure to run higher usage, but it would still be uh, more economical. And this crossover typically happens within the first year, right? So from a usage perspective, maybe when you have about 100 users, but that depends, right? It depends in the sense that what is the use that you're giving to AI? Is it complex functions or tasks? Then easily that can happen with much less usage, maybe even with 25 users, and more so if you have agents working on some automated process behind the scenes that could actually bring then this crossover point even earlier.
So that's very good and very insightful. So what are there any hidden costs that businesses might not anticipate?
Yeah, I'll start with the public side. So, as I mentioned, it's pay for use. So you may encounter that as you start using it, you require some premium feature that you didn't take into consideration where you were estimating usage cost, and when you make the decision to move forward with a particular solution, that's important. The movement of data too. So every time you make requests, data needs to move over to another system or potentially even um, within your account. So you have to take that into account. That data needs to be available for the system to use, and also you may be charged for that movement. And then integration costs, right? You are utilizing an external system. So if you wanted to work with your email service, if you wanted to work with your file system, if you wanted to work with more advanced systems like a database, then there's going to be some integration work that needs to be done. Vendors obviously make that easy, and that's part of the benefit of public, right? That you can get going quite quickly. On the private side, you have to have some skill set available, either with your IT team or maybe an external provider. Um, and there is work to be done to fine tune the models that you have internally so that they can learn from your data. But I think this is the most valuable uh, point of uh, going towards private AI, is that you want to use your data, every query, every request made by your users, your employees. You want to use that data so that the model learns your business, so that you can train your analytics AI on your data in particular, and identify trends. You can train your customer service AI to understand your particular customer's needs, right? These are language machines. So
Right.
what that means is that every business has their internal language. So
Right.
if you put these models to use to learn that language, then you get the most benefit.
Okay. Got it. So let's put cost aside for a second. That was a pretty good review and insights. Let's talk about perhaps an example of a real world use case and how to think about public versus private in an application.
Absolutely, and this is it may seem like a simplified example, but this happens every day, right? It doesn't really matter which domain, but this is a very common use case that we see across the board. You have a finance team and you want to use generative AI to analyze, say, Q4 revenue and maybe generate the forecast. So when you use a public AI solution, then you have to send that data out into
Right.
this vendor, right? So data goes out and you get back fantastic results, a revenue forecast. But you have to recognize that the data did go out, and it may have been also enriched with additional context that you provided in your question, in your query, and it leaves to your premise. Private AI, of course, that stays within. Um, Nothing goes out, you get an answer, and maybe because you're using an open source model, you get that fantastic forecast that you were expecting. But as you train it with your data, that forecast will become better, as good as the the one provided by private AI. But in honesty, the ideal world is a hybrid scenario where you are looking at the specific request or query and routing it accordingly and saying, okay, if I need to analyze my Q4 revenue, which uses sensitive data that I don't want anyone else outside of this firm to know, then that is routed to a private AI solution or component. And however, once I have the numbers and I have some charts and there's some that I can share with the world. In fact, it's the intention to share them with the world through a marketing or investor communications email. Then I can use public AI to help me craft that and make it a compelling message, and even with the visuals and generate video and do anything that may be needed to create great content.
Understood. Got it. Well, can you then help our audience understand when it really makes sense to go private?
Yeah. I see it as not when private AI would make sense. Yes, there's circumstantial criteria like the one we just mentioned in this example, but it's really why private AI makes sense to adopt in the longer term. You want to move quickly, certainly start with public AI, get the benefits of AI right away. Make sure you plan for the things we have talked about. But in general, why private AI makes sense in the long term is because these questions, for example, is your data your competitive advantage? I mean, most businesses will answer yes, right? However, there is some data that may not be necessarily part of that sensitive group of data. As I mentioned, if it's creating an email campaign that has content that is to be shared, that's meant to be shared with others, then no problem. But your data is typically a competitive advantage, so definitely, that's a check on private AI. Are you a regulated industry? Yeah, coming back to requirements about HIPAA, SOX, or PCI, or any other, and not necessarily even being regulated, but maybe you're in an industry like manufacturing where you want to keep trade secrets and you keep process secrets because they're really the most important thing about your business. So definitely, then that is prime for private AI. And finally, will AI usage scale with your business? Meaning, you're not expecting it to use it for a very discrete thing and just keep it at a corner. But if it will become part of the way you do business or the way you serve customers, then you're going to grow with it. And as we mentioned on the cost side, at some point it's going to make sense to then make an investment in the private side of things so that you don't get dinged on the increasing cost.
Right. All right, so all this sounds good, Ariel. Can you walk us through what implementation might look like?
Yes, and this is a a topic where I feel people are shy on implementing some of these solutions, especially the private ones, because they think it's harder than it actually is. As I mentioned, vendors are making it very easy, even for technical teams, to implement some of these private solutions. So I can see realistically a private AI system being implemented within a 6 week time frame. In the first few weeks, you set up your cloud environments where you are going to have your controlled environment, your controlled application. In the next 3 4 weeks, you deal with bringing in the right data, at least to solve the most important use cases, and bringing it in so that the model gets access or is fed with that data. And then the last couple of weeks is fine, just getting it to solve the specific problems and get it in the hands of users and start collecting feedback. Of course, it doesn't end here, right? This is more of an iterative approach. Any
Right.
AI or technology solution requires iteration. You own it for life, right? Even if you choose a vendor, that use with a vendor, you own it for life. You have to continue to nurture it. You have to continue to invest in it. But to get going, I think it could be a very short time frame, like we're illustrating here.
That's great to hear. It sounds, surprisingly fast to some degree. I think a lot of us business leaders tend to think it might be a lot more involved, and maybe that's what makes us hesitate sometimes to get started. I mean, we know people can be using, ChatGPT and other public AI, but to really implement a solution designed for our business to only take about 6 weeks, that's surprisingly fast. But it's great to hear that that's possible with certain applications. But what about the technical expertise that's required? I mean, does a company have to go out and hire a bunch of people? What are your thoughts there?
Initially it may require some help, right? Getting people to getting a team to set up the infrastructure. But as I mentioned, there are readily available components that any the traditional IT team can handle. I mean, think about other systems like a CRM, an ERP, right? Maybe initially you need support from the vendor or the team that is implementing it. It's exactly the same thing. You may need an implementation team, an installation team, but then after that, you can manage it yourself. But just in the same case as a CRM system, once it's in place, it's really keeping the wheels going, and keeping the engine up, and making sure that if there's a critical bug, then you refer that to the specialized team. Nowadays, also there are managed solutions, so you can have it all, a private solution in a box, right? You can, which will be similarly, agilely deployed as a public solution. So it will feel to you as a public solution, but it's a private solution. So in that sense, the talent is readily available in the market. You don't have to have a specialist AI or data science team to do it. And once it's built, it can also, like, the running of the engine can be handed off to the typical IT.
Very good. You have down here at the bottom of this slide some pitfalls to avoid. You want to go over them for us, please?
Yes, yes. Many times, teams over-engineer solutions, and that means, trying to solve every problem at the beginning. You're trying to boil the ocean. You're trying to make sure that you cover the entirety of of the challenges you have in the company. That's a challenge that needs to be avoided by just prioritizing, making sure you tackle the most important use cases, and that you get going. The most important thing is to get started, right? Then the second one is underestimating change management, right? You have to get your team on board. Typically, that requires having a champion who can take the AI adoption mission internally, and show what is possible so that everybody gets excited. But going beyond that, it's also gaining some proficiency internally, because AI proficiency is just going to be that it's it's a general competency now, or it will become a general competency, just like being comfortable with computing equipment was some years ago. So people need to be educated, trained, and make it easy for them to adopt it. Finally, data preparation, right? At least knowing your data. You don't necessarily have to get it ready with complex processes to pre-process data and get it to AI. I think AI is actually making it very simple to integrate data sources, but you have to know what data is available within your business. What is the data that would be valuable to use for AI purposes?
Agreed. Okay, now as we start to kind of head towards the finish line here, can you give us a little idea of how you see the AI landscape heading for small and mid-sized businesses in the next year or so?
Yeah, the longer term is very exciting, and I would say in the midterm and the short term, we're seeing this space evolve very rapidly. The first force is the commoditization of AI. As I mentioned, you know, computing became very accessible to everyone when the cloud services came out, right? So similarly, AI is becoming very accessible through the public AI solutions, and even private AI is also becoming very easy to implement. So costs are dropping to implement any one of these solutions. Complexity is decreasing because vendors are making it easier for everyone to adopt them. And packaged solutions are emerging where you just buy bundles and things that are ready to do, right? So things are becoming easier, cheaper. You have to jump into the wave and ride it and really get to adopt these tools. The second force is the regulatory pressure. We've seen, in Europe, some legislation to regulate AI, the use of AI, even within the United States as well. There's been a lot of talk about, putting a box around what should AI do, shouldn't do. But we've lived with many other regulations like privacy regulations, GDPR from Europe that applies in the US,
Right.
regulations in California about privacy as well, and that will continue to push even vendors within the AI industry. So and you see that vendors are reacting to that, but by adopting or implementing within their solutions or privacy sensitive features that would help their customers comply with the regulations that apply to them. And finally, the competitive differentiation. So as cost goes down, it's easy to adopt. Everybody would start using it. So it will no longer, adoption itself will no longer be a competitive advantage. It's how you use it. And this is where private AI can play a key role, right? As you use AI and point it to your data so that it learns your data, it learns your business, it learns your processes, that's going to be key to then take advantage of AI and make it a competitive mode, right? A competitive advantage. Just using it is not being enough, and
Right.
that's an important thing to consider.
Right. Okay. So what next? What are the next steps somebody should take now in terms of going down the road of really diving into AI for their business?
Yeah, how to get started? This is how we do it. First identify those high value use cases. Um, think through what kind of ROI you need to get out of AI. And you do it for two reasons. One, obviously for the business value, but also to get people excited, to get people motivated and get to see the potential of using AI for a variety of reasons. Once you have identified those use cases, then the next task is to know your data. As I mentioned, it's important to catalog your data. Often, because AI may be new to the business and you need to, you haven't done necessary work to understand like that maybe you may have data that could be put to use with AI because initially it hasn't been incorporated into a process because it's messy or because it's unstructured. AI is particularly good with that kind of data and could help you bring it into your AI implementation. So know your data, catalog it, make sure that the quality is reasonable. Doesn't have to be perfect. Again, AI makes it easier to bring it in. Let AI handle the rest. And third, educating your team. As I mentioned, find a champion, train your staff, bring AI literacy to the top of the list as a priority of the company.
So this is how we can get started then. Very good. Because I know that for our business as well, just identifying the high value use cases is important, going through some type of decision matrix to figure out, okay, we've got these 5, 6, 7 different ideas we have. Which one should, really bubble up to the top in terms of priority? Is it based on impact to the business? Is it based on ease of implementation? All those things kind of factor in. If we move forward to the next slide, I think we should be able to discuss one way in which you guys at InRiva can help businesses if they're interested.
Yeah, so we offer an AI workshop, and this is for business leaders. This is a session, a working session to get to understand what are the business priorities, what could be potentially that main use case that you could tackle first. And it's really to gain a clear understanding of the specific value that AI can bring you and the best way or the fastest way to get there. What you get at the end is an opportunity assessment. You get to see like what could be the path forward. Typically, we would also craft a technical solution, a technical path as well, so that you can see the roadmap of going maybe from, public AI quick wins to fully private, where you're using AI to learn from your data and help you prioritize. A plan to help you prioritize.
Right. Great. Very good. That sounds great. Lauren is our moderator today, and Lauren is going to be helping out with the question and answer section. Lauren, do we have any questions that have come up so far?
I'm checking right now, and yeah, if anyone has any questions, you can either put them in the chat or where it says Q&A at the top of your screen. Let me check our chat too. All right, so we don't have any questions yet, but I believe that we did have some questions before the meeting. If we wanted to go over a couple of those while we wait for people to get in their current questions.
Yeah. Yeah, so I have a question, Ariel, maybe you can help out with this. How does a business calculate return on investment for a private AI investment?
Yes, I'm glad you asked that. I wanted to go back to this as well. I mean, in the end, the return on investment of any initiative, it could be technology initiative or not, but for AI applies as well. Just look at it from in looking at 4 dimensions. First, or 4 potential benefits of the solution. One, direct cost savings, right? If maybe using private AI brings you lower cost, that's a key one. Or efficiency gains, right? Maybe the things that AI can now do are hours saved that can be allocated or can be spent by people, by others doing more productive tasks. Revenue impact. Sometimes AI can be used to improve customer experiences or even internal processes, and that makes them more efficient. Going back to the first 2, but they have an impact on the top line, right? Because you're now able to do sales faster or produce more quickly the things that you were doing before. And lastly, not necessarily affecting your P&L, but risk mitigation value. you may be able to control data more effectively to, monitor compliance more effectively because, you may be implementing privacy in some of your solutions. So if you consider, right, ROI from the cost perspective, the efficiency gains perspective, which is more like opportunity cost, revenue impact, that's top line impact, and then risk management impact. That's how I would go about evaluating a solution.
Great. Another question that might be on some people's minds is, already available to a lot of people. People are already starting to use, obviously, other public AI platforms. But can you describe a little bit more, like, can a private AI platform really meet the capabilities that some of these public platforms have?
Yes, that's a great question, and it's something that you need to keep in mind along the way and continue to evaluate what is offered. However, I would say that there are companies, very big and capable companies like Meta, for example, that is supporting the open sourcing the most powerful models that they have developed, right? So the industry is split between the companies that are maintaining their solutions secret and that they're offering them as a service, and they're fantastic, right? The ones that people mostly use, they're really great. They offer great capabilities. But then you have also companies that are open sourcing their own solutions, and they're fantastic too. Meta models the Llama models are just as good as the ones that are kept private.
Right.
The most important point on this question, though, is that in the end, right, you want AI to train on your data, to learn your business tasks, potentially fine-tuning those models to your business. And the way to think about this is like, the commercial models are generally small. They can do anything, right? They may be good at math, they can do finance, they can do marketing, they can generate content, but they don't know your specific data. They don't know your specific business language, and that's where utilizing the private path would be great, right? Actually, that would be the norm.
And yeah, example you gave earlier, Ariel, you showed that in a real world situation, though, most businesses will probably be in some sort of hybrid fashion ongoing, because there will be things that maybe they can take advantage on the public side that don't have to require you putting your own data up into the public cloud, right? So yes, you have a private AI model that's going to work for your business the way you need it to, take the data out of your business, give you the output you're looking for, which is specialized, engaged your business, and secure. But for certain tasks, like you said, developing marketing materials or potentially, some other aspects of stuff that doesn't require your data, there's still going to be an aspect, your overall strategic AI approach in your business that's going to involve kind of a hybrid approach.
Absolutely, and there are certain things for which the public AI models are fantastic for, like generating video, generating realistic pictures. I mean, they're really amazing. They're open source alternatives, but they're not as powerful as the ones that the big vendors provide. I also want to point out, this is not about big tech versus like private and small tech. Again, even the big technology providers are moving in this direction by incorporating into their solutions privacy sensitive features, including even complying with data privacy regulations. So we see this as a paradigm that is going to eventually become the norm as we move forward.
Lauren, any other questions that came in?
I'm not seeing any questions coming in, but if anyone does have any questions, please feel free to contact any of us after the webinar. And, when you get that email recording afterwards, you can reply to that email with any questions you might have.
I'm going to ask Ariel to just offer some closing thoughts. But before I do, I just want to offer my advice for businesses. Number one, if you haven't already made it a priority in your business to do something with AI intentionally, I don't mean some people are just out to using ChatGPT or Claude or something, but intentionally, I would suggest you make a priority, carve out some time, carve out maybe as Ariel mentioned at some point in time, pick a champion inside your organization to at least lead the effort, and start analyzing what can be done. If you need the help or you want the help of an outside source, you have people like Ariel's company InRiva, and you can also utilize KPInterface. One thing we offer is a KPI AI readiness assessment. Now, what Ariel was offering is sitting down with your team and actually looking at, doing a workshop on education and kind of really finding out what things might be feasible for you to implement in the short term. But we also go through and analyze, where your business is today, and really help to start establishing goals and policies overall. So that's something we can also help with as well with an AI readiness assessment. Ariel, any final closing thoughts for the audience today?
Yeah, I just want to highlight what's the most important points about this is, first, that AI adoption is not a binary choice between, cutting edge innovation, state-of-the-art innovation, and data control, right? Yes, it is a dilemma, but it just requires careful planning. You can cut through this dilemma with careful planning and pursuing that hybrid approach that we talked about. Don't let vendors convince you that you must make that sacrifice about your data sovereignty or your data control, right? There's no need to accept costs as unpredictable, right? Once you go to the public path, you're gonna pay for use. You don't have to be, trapped into that cost structure. And don't assume that private AI is too complex to achieve. As I mentioned, it's becoming easier. We can do it in a short time frame, and it's going to become easier as time goes on.
Right. And it doesn't take much, it sounds like, to just get started, at least. And it's a short time window. There may be an initial investment, but it's something that you can utilize for your own internal business, your own internal data going forward, which could be invaluable going forward as well. So that's
exactly right. AI is a strategic asset, and treat it as such. Build those AI capabilities as any other of your business. I think that's going to be the long-term recommendation.
Great. Well, I want to thank Ariel for your advice and insights into this aspect of AI today. And I want to thank all those who were able to spend some time with us today on this webinar. Hope you learned something else today in regards to AI, and we'll continue bringing you more content. You'll probably see Ariel again in the future as well, as we help businesses really navigate how they can leverage technology for the business, especially in the area of AI. So thanks again for everybody. Hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Take care.